She smells like old cloth, soap, sweat, and fur. I breathe deeply. The elevator climbs into place on my floor, and we extricate ourselves from it and walk down the narrow hallway. I wield my fistful of keys on all 107 locks and crack the door slightly. It's gotten much worse during dinner. I'm going to have to blindfold you. Claire giggles as I set down the wine and remove my tie. I pass it over her eyes and tie it firmly at the back of her head. I open the door and guide her into the apartment and settle her in the armchair. Okay, start counting. Claire counts. I race around, picking underwear and socks from the floor, collecting spoons and coffee cups from various horizontal surfaces, and chucking them into the kitchen sink. As she says, 967, I remove the tie from her eyes. I have turned the sleeper sofa into its daytime sofa self, and I sit down on it. Wine, music, candlelight? Yes, please. I get up and light candles. When I'm finished, I turn off the overhead light, and the room is dancing with little lights, and everything looks better. I put the roses in water, locate my corkscrew, extract the cork, and pour us each a glass of wine. After a moment's thought, I put on the EMI CD of my mother singing Schubert Lieder and turned the volume low. My apartment is basically a couch, an armchair, and about 4,000 books. How lovely, says Claire. She gets up and reseats herself on the sofa. I sit down next to her. There is a comfortable moment when we just sit there and look at each other. The candlelight flickers on Claire's hair. She reaches over and touches my cheek. It's so good to see you. I was getting lonely. I draw her to me. We kiss. It's a very compatible kiss, a kiss born of a long association, and I wonder just exactly what we've been doing in this meadow of Claire's. But I push the thought away. Our lips part. Usually at this point, I would be considering how to work my way past various fortresses of clothing, but instead I lean back and stretch out on the sofa, bringing Claire along with me by gripping her under the arms and pulling. The velvet dress makes her slippery, and she slithers into the space between my body and the back of the sofa like a velvet eel. She is facing me, and I'm propped up by the arm of the sofa. I can feel the length of her body pressing against mine through the thin fabric. Part of me is dying to go leaping and leaking and diving in, but I'm exhausted and overwhelmed. Poor Henry. Why poor Henry? I'm overcome with happiness, and it's true. Oh, I've been dropping all these surprises on you like big rocks. Claire swings a leg over me, so she's sitting exactly on top of my cock. It concentrates my attention wonderfully. Don't move, I say. Okay, I'm finding this evening highly entertaining. I mean, knowledge is power and all that. Also, I've always been hugely curious to find out where you live and what you wear and what you do for a living. Voila! I slide my hands under her dress and up her thighs. She's wearing stockings and garters, my kind of girl. Claire? Oui? It seems like a shame to just gobble everything up all at once. I mean, a little anticipation wouldn't hurt anything. Claire is abashed. I'm sorry, but you know, in my case, I've been anticipating for years, and it's not like cake. You eat it and it's gone. Have your cake and eat it too. That's my motto. She smiles, a tiny wicked smile, and thrusts her hips back and forth a couple times. I now have an erection that is probably tall enough to ride some of the scarier rides at Great America without a parent. You get your way a lot, don't you? Always. I'm horrible, except you have been mostly impervious to my wheedling ways. I've suffered dreadfully under your regime of French verbs and checkers. I guess I should take consolation in the fact that my future self will at least have some weapons of subjugation. Do you do this to all the boys? Claire is offended. I can't tell how genuinely. I wouldn't dream of doing this with boys. What nasty ideas you have. She is unbuttoning my shirt. God, you are so young. She pinches my nipples hard. The hell with virtue. I've figured out the mechanics of her dress.